Welcome to Lesson 3 in Build Interwebz HTML tutorial series. Today we're talking about CSS, Cascading Style Sheets. CSS is how we style our web pages. So in the past couple days we have built unstyled web pages. Black text on a white background, everything is left aligned. Looks kind of like this. Black text, Times New Roman, on a white background, everything's left aligned. Not very beautiful, not very interesting. CSS is how we change that. So just follow along with me. You can copy the HTML for this class from the post for this class. This is lesson 3, and post that into a document on your desktop called Alien HTML if you want. And what we want to do is create a blank file called style CSS, also on your desktop. Now link to it using this. Add that link right below your title tag. So this is in the head, information for the browser. And of course, I need to paste it unstyled. I'm going to right click, do Anyway, you gotta get rid of these curly quotes that come from the web page. That's bad news bears. Okay. So style.css, that's the path and file name that we need. So because there's nothing in the style sheet, we still have an unstyled document. But as we add styles to our style sheet, that is going to change. So I go over some CSS theory or whatever in this tutorial. Let us just start with these styles in our style sheet. Okay. I'm going to show you what they look like. Whoa, we got a little style going on, a little color here. So, we got a gray background, black text, and a white background on the H1 on the title there. So body, background, that's the gray color. Text color is this color, black. Font family is Arial, that's right, we got new sans font, sans serif. And H1 has a white background. So, let's get a little bit more into what we're looking at here. So in CSS, we have a selector that goes here, and you put curly brackets, and then inside the curly brackets are what styles you want to get applied to this selector. So body is the whole document, everything is wrapped in that body tag like this. So anything inside the body tag is going to get styles that we put in the body. It's very general styles. Now, what is this guy? Like background, obviously, that's going to affect the background color or something. But this is a monster. It's a hex value, 6 digits, always starts with a number sign, and it can be letters or numbers, as you can see, or a combination of both. This 666 is gray, 00000 is black, FFF is white. To find more hex values, you can always just Google hex colors, and any of the hits that come up would be fine. W3 schools is a little sketchy in general. You may want to avoid them unless you're looking for some info real quick. It doesn't have to be bulletproof. I'm just going to show you 2 hex type deals here. So this is something that came up on Google Images. Hurry up. Yeah, that was too small to read. Oh, there it is. This came up off Google Images, So this is a hex value for this orange color, FF6633. So if you Google hex palettes or something like that, hex colors, you'll find all kinds of good stuff. Here's another one. This purple color is this. Copy that, and then you can paste it into your style here. So background is the background. We've put that gray background on there. Color is the text color. We set the black, which it was already. Font-family sets the font you're using. The default is Times New Roman. It's that serif font. So this is the default. And when we change it to Arial, font family Arial, when we specify Arial, we get a nice sans Arial font. Now, You should read this stuff for web safe fonts. Pretty much the short of it is you can't really specify cool fonts like Gotham or anything like that in your style sheet unless you're pulling it in from somewhere like Google Fonts or Typekit, or if you're importing it with CSS. We'll get into all that in the future, but for now just know that the way we did it, like just doing font family Arial without doing any crazy at import or something like that, you're limited to only a bunch of web fonts. These are the real common ones. There might be a couple others out there, but these are the ones you mostly see. So we can specify Times New Roman. If it's more than one word, you actually need to put it in single quotes, I believe, like this, Times New Roman. But if it's one word like Arial, I think you're good, just like this. So, I did a little Googling for hex colors, and I messed around in Photoshop with the colors I found to come up with new colors, and I like these colors. So this is the background color I want, it's that dark blue. This is the text color I want, it's a very light blue, it's almost white. And that looks like this. Okay, we still have this on the H1, this background. We can take that off. I just want to show you how everything goes all the way across the screen by default. Let's change the font size on our paragraphs by doing this. So we're gonna style the p tags or paragraph tags, and we're gonna style them with 13 pixels. That's what this px is. 13, no space, px. That means 13 pixels. It's almost the default. I think it's a little bit smaller than the default here. So you can see the p tags just got a tiny bit smaller when we added font size 13 pixels. Oh dear. Okay, let's talk about width real quick. What we're going to do here is add width 530 pixels to the body. Now, like I was saying, everything goes all the way across the page by default. Oops, I just changed my text size. So everything goes across the page by default, including the body. Right now the body is a width of 100% of the window size. I don't want this text going all the way across the page. That's not very styling. So I'm going to put a width of 530, which is going to cut the whole body off around here or something like that. So I add it to my style sheet, this line, I save it, and then I refresh my browser. You can see everything gets cut off at 530. So the whole body element, which is wrapping everything, is now only this size. Let's talk about background images. Background images are wonderful. We are going to throw a background image on our H1 like this. So H1, we want to style our H1 tag, that top title, the largest one. We're going to put this alien on it. So we looked at background using a hex value, and that specifies the background color you want. But if instead of the hex value, if you put this thing in there, you get a background image like this. So you got this little head back there. I'll show you how to add a little padding so that head isn't on top of the text. But first, let's talk about this real quick. So the syntax, the way to write background images are like this: background URL, and quote or parenthesis quote, your file name. If you need a path before it, like if our image isn't on the desktop, if instead it's in a file called images, you would have to put the path to it. But our image is on the desktop. Actually, yours isn't because I didn't tell you to download it yet. Apologies. Download your file here, that little alien head file. You can download it here. You can right click and then do save link as, and then save it on your desktop. You click save. I already have it there. Okay. Now, no repeat means don't tile it horizontally and vertically like this. Whoa, alien heads everywhere. So we don't want that, so you hit no repeat. You add no repeat. Also, we have the 0, 0. That's actually the default. 0, 0 means we want it in the top left of this element. So the H1 element is here, the top left corner of the H1 element is here, so that's where the alien head goes. We could do 50%, 50%. You can put any percent value. That sticks it 50% in the X width of the H1. And so the H1 goes from here to here, so 50% is here. Same with vertically. It's a very narrow element, so it only goes right there. We can do right, and then like 10 pixels. So right, we could do right top or right bottom. I'm just showing you different options here. So right, bottom, puts on the right of this element and the bottom. You could do left, top, and you can mix them. That's what I was showing you before. You could do like right and 10 pixels. So that does right, and it'll put on the very right side of the element, and then it'll go down 10 pixels. So we're looking at X and Y values. You can also do negatives here. So a negative Y value sends it up 10 pixels. You know, negative Y, negative X value would send it to the left a little bit. But we want 0, 0. Okay, we got our little alien head there. Now, I'll show you padding in 1 minute here, but I just want to stick with the way I wrote it in the tutorial here. We want to add, I think it is font size to our H1. Yeah. This guy. So we made our font size smaller actually. Font size 16. The default on a H1 is very large font size. We wanted to make it more like a logo than a huge, humongous title. We still want to add padding here. And let's do that. We are going to add padding to our body and our H1. Whoa, that's all kinds of crazy padding we just added. So we added padding top, right, bottom, left, padding top, right, bottom, left. You don't need to add all these 4. You could just add 1 or 2. It doesn't matter. What does this do? Well, remember how I said each of these elements is like a rectangle? What we're doing here is adding space inside that rectangle. So when you add padding left to this H1, it's going to push it over to the right. It's saying on the left side of this, add some space. Okay, so we added 70 pixels padding, no, I'm sorry, on the H1 we added 39 pixels on padding left. So we'll push it left 39 pixels. We added some padding on the top. We did the same thing on the body here. We added like 40 pixels on the top, which pushed this down. It gave us space inside the body. Same thing on the padding left. We pushed everything 70 pixels right by adding padding left 70 pixels. We got padding top, padding left on the body, and then we have padding left on the H1. We also have a little top padding and bottom padding on the H1 to give it some space. So that's padding. You can also add margin, which would add space on the outside of the box. But we'll get more into that in the future classes. We want to add a background image to the body. Now that we're going to replace this background color on the body with this. So we still have our background color, but now we are adding a background image. Now the background image you should know from this guy, and the background no repeat you should know from this guy. But see here, we're actually setting the X and Y values. We don't want it at 0, 0. We don't want it at the top left. Instead, we want this background image way over. Get focus on my window here. There. So we sent it like 700 pixels over from the left, like 161 pixels down, and then so that actually places the top left corner of the image, I think, if you want to be specific. So there we have that image, and we are getting there now. A couple little things we want to change. We want to add line height to our paragraph tags. We're going to add line height 1.6. Now, watch what that does when I refresh to our paragraphs. Gives it more space. So 1 is more or less single spaced, pretty tight. 2 is double spaced, like that. If you were to use 0, which you wouldn't, it puts all the text on top of each other. I don't know what the default was. It was around 1.5 or something like that, but maybe 1.25. But we like 1.6 on this document. You want to add a couple more styles. We're going to add H2, H3, H4, and ULLI styles. And then we will be cooking with gas here. Okay, so here are some styles we're adding. H2, H3, H4, ULLI. I'm going to show you what they look like first, then I'll explain them. So, this is our H2. We made that guy bigger, font size 27. We wanted some typographical hierarchy or whatever they call it. We added some padding top on that to push it down because we wanted that logo to be kind of isolated and give it plenty of breathing room. We styled our H3 and our H4s with padding on the top. So those are these guys, H3, H4. We wanted padding on the top. We styled them together. You haven't seen that yet. So when you do one selector, comma another selector, and then give them styles, it applies this style, or these styles, whatever's inside your curly brackets, to both of these selectors. And you could do more than one. We could do P, and give that a padding 20 pixels too. You can also put these on multiple lines if you want. White space and line breaks don't matter a whole lot in CSS documents. So that's a way to style more than one selector at once. Similarly, we are styling LI tags here, only LI tags. We are styling a specific type of LI tag, and that means that is LI tags that are inside ULs. So I'm going to go back to my HTML document, LIs inside UL. So all these are going to get styled, all our bullet points. Whoa! All these bullet points here just got styled with that font size, which is awesome because it was way too big by default. But what's going on here is we're saying if there's an LI tag that's not inside a UL, don't style it. Only style LIs that come after, or inside I should say, UL tags. Now LIs never come outside of UL, so that doesn't matter, but I just want to show you this. You could also do spans that are inside of P's, and if you have a span that's inside a H3 but not inside a P, it would not get styled by this. Hopefully you understand that. Let me know if you don't. This stuff can be a little weird at first. And actually, I think that is everything. I think we are starting to look good. Yeah, so this is starting to look good. We got a little background image. We got some nice padding, plenty of white space on this guy. A little bit of typographical hierarchy or whatever, where our font sizes, get smaller. Our font titles get smaller, so people know what they're looking at and how the document is laid out. So that's CSS. The cascade I didn't mention in CSS has to do with, so CSS is called cascading style sheets. So we know the style sheet part, but what is that cascade? Well, the cascade has to do with like the order which things come here. So we styled the body. Let me give you a good example. We don't have a lot of cascading in this document, but for example, see how we use this light white, this light blue on the color for everything in the body? Well, if we wanted to give the H1 a color of red, we could. And you'll see that I specified red in the H1, but I had already specified white, or this near white, for everything in the body. So which one wins? Which one wins in that cascade? Well, H1, because it comes later in the style sheet than body. So things that are declared here and overridden down here, the ones lower in the style sheet win. Now that's not set in stone. There are a lot of ways to override that. One being by specifying uh, selectors that are inside other selectors. So I'm going to show you. Well, I'm just going to say it. Um, we don't have enough in this document. In future documents, we'll have more elements to style, and I can show you the cascade better. But just know that an element that comes inside another element gets a slightly higher precedence than something without something that's just on its own without being inside without having like two selectors. And we can keep going here. You know, we could have 3 selectors, we could have 4 selectors. The more selectors you add, the higher precedence it gets. It's a bit of a science, and it comes down to a little bit of math. Pardon. These get assigned point values and stuff like that depending on how many selectors you have and that kind of thing. We'll get all into the very specifics, but for now, just understand that there is a bit of a cascade at work. You know, general styles are declared up here on the whole body, on the whole page, and then they get overridden down here. If they're not overridden, the styles kind of cascade down. So everything gets a color P that I'm not overriding. So I didn't declare my everything gets a color P. Everything gets a color light blue, um, ex except things I override it. So I didn't declare a color on my paragraph tag, so the color cascaded down from that body style. That's why they call it cascading style sheet. It's a little bit of a weird name, but that's what it is.